So we can see that they are seasoned professionals that have walked the walk and are talking the talk. So I want us to actually open our minds. If you have questions that you've not said, probably in the course of the session, while they are talking and you feel that there are some questions that you want to ask relating to what they've answered, questions they've answered, please drop it in the comment section. We have people that will be attending to the questions in the comment section so that we can address it before the session is over. The plan is that this session should last for 1 hour, 30 minutes max. If we want to drag it too much, 2 hours, but the plan is 1 hour, 30 minutes. So my name is Inse. I'm the leader of Work and Study Group 1. I'm currently writing my CFA exams. I am a member of ACCA. And so I want to believe that based on the fact that I have written one of the exams and I am writing another exam, that I have an understanding of what we would be addressing today. And the questions, the hope is that we'll be asking very intelligent questions that would answer different questions that you people are trying to resolve amongst yourselves. So without wasting time, I would like to introduce, first of all, Olayinka Oyetunji, who is the governor of the Work and Study Group. So Olayinka, please can you tell us about yourself and a few things we don't know or you feel will be useful for us?
Okay, thank you very much, Inse, and good evening, House. Thank you so much for joining the session today. Like Inse has said, we believe we are going to have a great time together, and I'm happy that we also have Dr. Sanya in our midst. Olayinka Oyetunji. I am married and I have 3 kids. I wrote the CFA exams, one of the most difficult exams with 3 kids. I work as a manager at Ernst & Young. I'm in the strategy and transactions unit. Outside of work, I like to meet people. I like to write. I like to read. And one other thing that people may not know about me is that I like to play pranks. So I like scaring people, standing behind the door when they think there's nobody in the room and jumping at people just to hear them scream and run and all of that. I'm very happy that we're going to have a great time today. And like Inse has said, I would appreciate that we make this as interactive as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inka. So Dr. Sanya, I know you don't like to be called the doctor, but you know that I've told you that I would never waste your title. There's no way you will go to medical school and finish. I will withdraw that title. It has been no. I will always call you Dr. Sanya. So, Dr. Sanya, please can you introduce yourself and tell us about, or at least something that we probably do not know that is in your bio or something.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Segun Sanya. Yes, I'm a medical doctor. Well, I used to call myself a former doctor. Right. After the medical school, I thought that what I needed to do was to do something that was more needed in the healthcare space. And so, as opposed to just being a doctor and or being a specialist in the medical field, I felt that what was missing at the time was doctors who understood the business of healthcare, right? So that's why I opted for the MBA. So I did the MBA at Lagos Business School, and thereafter I worked in different roles in the healthcare space. Now I work for a company called the Medical Credit Fund. What we do is that we provide access to finance for healthcare institutions in Africa, right? And I lead financial analysis and all of that. I think that's essentially about me. Outside of work, I do, my wife and I run a business, and I also manage a family real estate. And that's essentially.
Wow, that is a lot. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanya. Don't worry, I'm not wasting it, I've told you. So just get used to it in the course of this session. So we are going to go straight to asking questions. And the first question will be directed at Yinka. So Yinka, I remember immediately after our inaugural session, a lot of people were asking, when you were saying that you wake up at 2 o'clock to read and all that. I remember immediately after the session, a lot of people were asking, that. So now the question is, what can one do to maintain a high concentration when you are getting up early to read, say like 3 a.m., and you do not close in your office? You are still in the office doing office work at 8 p.m. So what can you do to handle that?
Okay, thank you very much, Inse, for that question. In terms of an exam strategy, the first thing I would tell anybody is you have to know yourself. Now, we have two categories of people. We have the early birds and we have the night owls. I'm an early bird. Anything I want to get done, especially my most difficult tasks, I do them in the morning. So it's convenient for me to wake up in the morning, say 2 a.m. and read till 5 a.m. That is 3 hours before I get dressed for work. Now, it might not be convenient for everyone, all right? There are some people that they prefer to do their task in the night. But for somebody that is a full-time professional, if you're working full-time and you are also studying for an exam, I'm not clear on how night owls do that. The reason why I said this is this. I believe that if you want to read, okay, by the way, I'm also a teacher. I take CFA classes and I also did education in school, all right? And one of the things I know is this, that if you want to assimilate, your brain has to be ready, has to be fresh to assimilate. So if you have gone to work, all right, and you are tired and you think that it's when you get home at night that you want to read, I'm not sure that you will be at your optimal at that time of the day because you would have stressed yourself out during the day. And the way I see it is this: what makes it easy for me to do my things in the morning, and I mean, what I used to encourage myself is this: I would rather invest first in myself, all right, in the morning before I run other people's vision. So if I've invested 3 hours in myself in the day, and you see me at work at 8 o'clock, all right, my own day is not just starting at 8 o'clock. What I make sure I do is between the hours of 8 and 5, I dedicate everything to my work. And between the hours of 2 and 5 a.m., I dedicate everything to myself. All right, as we go along in the conversation, I'm still going to talk about some of the myths that we have around, oh, I want to multitask and all of that. Those things don't exist. So let me stop here and hand over to Inse. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yinka. Dr. Sanya, do you have anything you want to add to that question? What do you think, at least from a medical angle and from your own angle as a student, as someone that wrote the CFA exams?
I don't know how to wake up early hours to read because I like to sleep a lot. All right, so I also think that sleep is so I try to read in the evenings. So this is how I work. Because I sleep quite a bit, I try to ensure I do 6 hours every day. All right, so that keeps my body fresh most of the day. All right. Now, what I also did, especially for level 2, that I realized that needed more of my concentration was I did more of exercises. So, for example, I don't know how to read in a noisy place. So, in spite of the fact that I have a study in the house, I still go to the Unilag library to read. All right. I'm also the kind of person that I can read 6 hours at a stretch. It's easier for me. All right. I can read 4 hours at a stretch. All right, that's easy for me, but I need it to be in a fairly quiet area. So the way I create that is once I go, there's an underground library in ULAG main library. That's what I use, and I use this a lot. So I reduce distraction to the parents in the moment. I try to read 4 to 6 hours. Then after reading, right now, medicine has also taught me that exercises increases blood flow to the brain. All right, so Unilag has a road that is quiet during the night. So I run 30 minutes Monday to Saturday. And that's what that does is ensures that there's blood flow to my brain, ensures that I can sleep well. All right, because of that busy schedule. And that's how I've been able to go around reading in the evenings and still achieve optimum.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Because funny enough, I'm very happy that you brought up that exercise part, because today we try to encourage everybody in the group to exercise or work out and send screenshots to encourage them in realizing that it's not just about sitting down for long hours and walking. You actually have to keep your body active, because like Yinka said today, somebody that is dead cannot write the exam. Somebody that is not physically fit would not be able to be in the right frame of mind to write the exams in the first place. So thank you for actually touching on that particular subject of exercising. Now, Dr. Sanya, there's this question I want to ask, because the person, I feel that that question is actually related to you, considering the fact that you moved from medicine to finance. And I wanted you to answer, as in the reason I wanted you to, I actually thought you would be in the best position to answer it is because you can help the person see the light in the fact that he will not waste what he's doing right now in the course of moving to finance. So how we can put that. So the question is this, 1 minute, please. It's a long story, so I'm going to read the whole flow so that you understand how you go about it. I have been reading for exams due to work. Work is unbelievably demanding. Working from home means the traditional working hours no longer hold. My action plan for passing the exam is to stop work around about 90 days to the exam to devote all my time to studying. I work in IT, but I've always wanted to work in finance. I see the CFA level 1 as an opportunity to access desired career opportunities. I am not passionate about my current job role, and the stress makes it less tolerable. The second question, so what is acting exactly is, I have, the question is, how good is the plan? I want you to explain to me if this 90 days that I say I want to wait to concentrate for CFA, if it will work for me. So please, can you answer it? So you have 2 questions to answer. The first one is the shift, the career shift. And the second one is, how do you think this 90 days is, how feasible is this 90 days?
All right, so let me take the second one first, the career shift. Now, when I wanted to move from medicine to finance, for me, I thought the way to go was to immediately start applying for finance roles, right? But every time anyone saw my CV, they saw a doctor, all right? And it was difficult to explain to because the first thing anyone sees is your resume. They don't see you first. They don't have the opportunity to ask you why you. So when they see my CV, it's been difficult for them to understand why they should employ you in a finance role and all of that. Now, so the point I'm making now is that it's easier for you to make a move across within your industry first, before you say you then want to shift to another. Say, for example, now what I did was, before moving into finance, I did more of, I moved into the health insurance industry. Because they say health insurance is similar to health financing. It's a way of financing healthcare. All right, so it's easier to move from that role, all right, to a more core financing role. But after that, I realized that there were not too many people who were interested in both finance and healthcare, and so it increased my interest in that role. So I then moved from health insurance to now doing core finance in the healthcare space. Now, so my advice would be that why don't you look for related financial roles in your industry first. It appeals, that way you appeal to people who are recruiting for that particular industry. All right, that's one. So, but I actually did go for an interview where I was recommended for the role, and after the interview, the interviewer called me aside and said, I think that you'll be best fit for a role that applies both your healthcare and your finance skills. All right, and that I should seek more of those roles. And that even informed my decision to concentrate on either a private equity in the healthcare space, or what I do, a debt finance in the healthcare space. All right, so I would suggest that your IT, right? There are increasing number of IT companies who are needing people who understand a bit of IT and finance. All right, so a blend of that will make you a much needed talent in that industry. All right, that's one. And then the thing about 90 days, I don't know, I realized that if I have a lot of time, right? If I have a lot of time in my hands, I don't move as much in reading. So for example, I realized that if I have shorter time, I do better than when I have a longer time. Okay, I would suggest that you don't necessarily have to have 5 hours at once. Knowing yourself, it might just be 2 hours, it might not be 1 hour. All right. And in fact, because you are under you're under a very tight schedule, right? You tend to your body tends to assimilate faster. For some strange reason, I found out that when I'm under stress and I have a very very tight schedule, I assimilate faster. I even accomplish more within a short time. So I would suggest that as opposed to leaving everything and waiting till 90 days for the date, why don't you start reading something, even if it's 30 minutes a day? The way pastor will say that instead of praying 5 hours at the weekend and not praying anything during the week, why don't you pray 20 minutes every day? You achieve a lot more. All right, it's the pace. All right, so that your body will get used to, especially because you don't do finance in your core role. All right, you need to be constantly exposed to the curriculum. I would suggest a small bit, and then if you then decide to do 90 days at once, then you're already used to the curriculum.
Okay, thank you very much. Yinka, I'm sure you have 1 or 2 things to add because I saw you smiling when I was asking the question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Inse. I think Doctor has already, he hits the nail on the head. You see, studying is like you are working out. If you do it without a break, you get a lot of momentum and that keeps you going. I would suggest that you start from now, get familiar with the content of the curriculum. Now, one other thing that, I've read about the brain, all right, which I believe that as we go on in the course of our discussion, I might touch on, is that from research, it's shown that your brain needs at least 17 repetitions before it can store something for a long time. And the CFA is very wide. I'm sure you're going to be reading nothing less than like 3,500 pages of books. And if you are if you don't have enough time, all right, it's not likely that you would have been able to really understand the content to be able to apply what you know on an exam scenario. So I would suggest you start now. And as you start, you gain momentum. There's something that is very important for anyone that is preparing for an exam, which I summarize as have 0 days. You need to have a study plan and you need to be consistent with that study plan. With your study plan, make sure there is no day that you just feel like I don't want to read and you don't read. Because as humans, we are beings of habits. Our bodies like habits. So if you get used to it, so if you start with an hour today, by the time you do this hour for 21 days, 1 hour is no longer a challenge to you because your body is already used to sitting to read for 1 hour. By that time, you have gained momentum and you can take it a step further and start with another hour. So if I tell you that I read 2 to 5 a.m., I started by reading 3 to 5. And then I moved it from 2 to 5. And then, it just becomes a part of you. So like we have said, just try to start small, gain the momentum, let your body get used to it. And then you find out that by the time you're approaching that 90 days where you have enough time, you'll be able to trash on more content of the exam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yinka, for answering that question. At least it was good we got 2 different perspectives relating to the question. So the next question, Yinka, will be related to you. What was your drive for being part of the work and study group? As in, what drives you? Because I know this is an inside gist, but we've come to realize, leaders in the work and study group have come to realize that work and study is not the same with other groups. By the time we join other groups, we find out that the ginger in work and study is different from other groups. So what drives you in putting in that ginger in work and study group?
Thank you very much. If I may ask, is this question from the members or this is
actually a member that sent it?
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you very much. And I would, thank you so much. I take that as a compliment. So the way I see things is this: if there's anything you want to do at all, just do it well. There's nothing that I want to do that I don't do with the whole of my heart. So if you get to my office as well and ask about me, everything I do is with my heart. And there was a time my husband was joking, like, the way you work, you'll be in this house, you'll be working, we'll not even see you. The way you work like you are the CEO. And I said, yes, I am the CEO. I might not have shares in the company that I work, but I believe that when you have an opportunity to do something, you just have to do it well. And this is a culture that everybody that wants to excel has to imbibe. Now, how did I even find myself in work and study? It was a nomination. And I know things don't happen by accident. Nothing happens by accident. It's an opportunity to share my journey, share my experiences, and make sure that we are able to build with the team more professionals that are also going to excel in their career. So if as the governor of work and study group, for instance, I wrote my CFA level 2 3 times, man, you can be rest assured that I know some secrets about CFA level 2, all right, that I should not just keep to myself, but that a platform like this gives me to share. And that is why we Inse is writing CFA, she's written ACCA. Esther has done her ICANN, she's preparing for ACCA. Itome is also preparing for CFA. So we are coming from the place of no, all right, from the place of experience. And I would say that's probably where the ginger comes from. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yinka. So Dr. Femi, Dr. Segun, this one is for you. What made you, because you went to medical school, you spent at least 6 years in medical school. Even if anything did not discourage you from leaving medicine, what was that drive? What made you decide to leave the medical field? Why finance? As in, something must have triggered it in the first place for you to have even gotten that interest in finance.
When I got into medical school, I've always wanted to be a surgeon. So surgery was my core interest. Right? But by the time I got to the 3rd year of medical school, I knew what area of surgery I wanted to do. Right? So was done and dusted, was just making plans for it. But by the time I got to final year, that was the first time I was exposed to the management of healthcare. All right. And I realized that when I look around my seniors, those going ahead, not too many people pursue the path of learning the art of the management of healthcare institutions, right? However, 10 years down the line, you are made to head the hospital. You are the role of managing the hospital is thrown at you. All right. So, and that's what explains quite a lot of things that happens in the healthcare space, hospital management and all. Because many of these skills are it's not part of the curriculum of the show. All right. And so I felt there was a need to learn something more. Even if I was going to continue in medicine, let me at least learn the art of management. That was really it. Right. And so that's why I chose to do it. That's why I wanted to do an MBA. Okay, so I then went for the LBS MBA. Now, when I got to the LBS, first LBS approach to teaching is significantly different from what I used to, right? And I realized that 2 areas caught my interest: strategy and finance. All right, and so I felt that of the 2, finance was more needed in the healthcare space. All right, so after the MBA, I decided that I wanted to pursue a path in finance. I wasn't sure which way. All right, I was speaking to a number of people, and in fact, I went to see someone and say that, okay, I was considering doing the CFA. And then the guy told me, you know what, the guy is I went to meet him because he was one of the HR professionals that came for our career fair. And then the guy told me that, you know what, for your background, I don't think you should consider CFA at all. I don't think it's too difficult for you. You should go out and do something easier, you know, like ICANN, ACCA, you know, that's what you should do. All right, like you shouldn't even consider it at all. All right, and I went back home, and of course, when I told my wife that listen to this, so I think I should go and do SSS, she said, who is he to determine what you can do? All right, I realized that that's true. Why am I making a decision based on what someone thinks of my capabilities? All right, so then that's when I wrote immediately before anybody else tells me that I cannot do it again. All right, so I wrote immediately, and I mean, after a long journey at hiccups here and there, right, I think that I can say that it was worth it. Right, so that's why I decided I didn't want to do finance when I left medicine. I wanted to do something, I wanted to learn the art of the management of healthcare. But by the time I got into the business school, I realized that finance was something I was interested in. So that's essentially how.
Okay, so I want to quickly ask a question that is linked to it, which you've practically answered, but at least since the person specifically asked it, let me just say it the way the person asked it, that any fear of basically starting over, because you had spent 6 years studying medicine, you've done your housemanship and all that. So was there any fear, like any doubt in you when you were branching into finance?
No. I don't think fear for me wasn't the issue. The issue for me at the time was what was the pathway. There were not too many people who had gone the path I had gone. So it was more of where will I get information or as to how to go and who should I speak to. Right? And I didn't have that a lot at the time I was taking that decision. Right? And then I finished medical school when I was 24 or so. Right? I felt that it was a good time to at least make a shift, right? And as soon as possible. For me, at the time, I felt that I was getting to a point, you know what, at that time that companies will recruit and say that your age must be 25 or so. So that tells me that if I'm going to make a shift, it has to be as quickly as possible. All right, so for me, it wasn't a fear because I decided, all right, I guess it's also my person. I'm also the kind of person that if I've made up my mind, right, and if I'm very clear that that's God's plan for me, it's difficult for me to change my mind, very difficult, all right? I might have reasons, situation happen that might make question my decisions, but that I'll be, no, I don't think fear was one of the things I considered. It was just knowledge, the way to get the knowledge on how to go about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for answering that.
But hold on, let me just say this. It's not to say that it's not a move that you'll be afraid of. You should be afraid because you are essentially leaving what you know to what you think might be better or what you think that is good for you. What if it's not? What if you made a mistake? Those are the things that will probably run through your mind. However, I tend to comfort myself in a decision I've made based on what I have received by God's scripture. Right? My decision to move was based on a scripture I saw when Joseph told all of his brothers and said, my moving to Egypt was for a purpose, to preserve posterity. If I didn't move, right, my entire generation may have been wiped out. All right. And so my moving into finance was for the purpose of developing healthcare. So sometimes when we go for a meeting to discuss with medical doctors on the need for finance, it's easier for me to talk to them when I say, my name is Dr. Sanya. So they know that I'm coming from, I know how it is that they're feeling, what is this that is their fears. It's easier for them to relate. All right. So I think that, yes, there might be fears. I mean, no doubt. However, I take comfort in the fact that I heard it clearly, all right, and that's alone is what I run with.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Don't worry, we have like See, and people are just flooding me with message and questions for you, but let that one pause. We'll ask you later. So Yinka, now we all know you're married. When you started CFA, you had started dropping children. So how did you manage? And I don't even have children, but I know the stress I go through with being married and taking care of a home and all that. So how did you manage juggling your career, your studies, and CFA for your family? How were you able to balance all that?
Thank you very much. So that's a big question. First, I would say that there's nothing that one is able to achieve without the grace of God. So I'm going to attribute everything that I'm becoming to God's grace. But if I look at some of the things that have helped me, first, I would say that I have a supportive family, okay? So for married people, this is an advice for you. If you are writing any professional exams, especially the CFA or ICANN or ACCA, and you know these exams are rigorous, they're going to take your time, I would recommend strongly that you please speak to your spouses, all right, to let them know what you're trying to achieve. And how do you do that? You have to sell the vision to them, all right. CFA is not a joke. And when you have kids that are young, it's not funny. If you are not married, lucky you. If you are married, you need to talk to your spouse to give you the kind of support that you need. Now, most times we always believe that, oh, this guy should know that I have exams, that I won't have time to do this or I won't have time to do that. That's having an entitlement psychology that won't work. That's being feeling entitled. You have to have a discussion and say, I need your help here. Can you help me take the kids out over the weekend so that I can have a quiet space at home to read? Can you help me do this? Don't feel too proud to ask for help. Now, beyond that, I've talked about the support. That support is very important. The way you spend your time is also very, very important. Most times, if you do a time audit, you realize that we don't spend our time well. Meanwhile, our time is our life. And if you tell me that, oh, my work is rigorous, I don't have time to do my exams because I'm working, let me tell you, your employer would find somebody that is cheaper than you and has the qualifications that they need if you don't do what you're supposed to do at the right time. I'm happy Dr. Sanya alluded to that when he said when he started his CFA. And guess what? If you want to learn from my story, I started CFA when I lost my job. I'd already gotten I knew I wanted to be, well, right from the university, I knew I wanted to become a financial analyst, right? But along the way, I started working and I just forgot about my dreams. And I didn't get that jerk, that wake-up call until I lost my job 4 years into it. And then I went back to my shelf and saw my CFA books there that have been lying there for 3 years since I started work. So don't forget to pursue your own goals, all right? Don't sacrifice your goals, your fulfillment for anything. Now, how am I able to do it? What are the practical things that I do? On this journey, your health is the most important thing. Your health is the most important thing. You need to fuel your body to support you for the rigor that lies ahead of you. How do you do that? You need good sleep. It is recommended that you take 6 to 7 hours of sleep every day. This might sound counterintuitive for somebody that is writing exams, that is working, that has family obligations. But let me tell you, if your body is not well rested, if your brain is not well rested, you cannot assimilate anything. You won't be productive. You can read for 3 hours and not get anything if your body is tired or your brain is tired. But if you are well rested, you might cover a lot more than you would have done just looking at it in 4 hours. Second thing is, what do you eat? So many of us, yes, because we are writing exams, you just eat anything that comes our way. That's a no-no. You have to be careful of what you put into yourself. Avoid taking too much processed food. Make sure that you are taking lots of water, not soda. Lots of water, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. These are the things that will help your body and your brain to do the things that you want it to do. All right. I'm happy Dr. Sanya talked about exercise. You can't joke with exercising. Even if it's just taking a walk, 15 minutes walk every 3 hours will do a lot for you. If you take 15 minutes, every 3 hours, you might be able to achieve up to 6,000 steps a day. These are the things that can help you to be very, very productive. I won't say that this is not a difficult journey. It is a difficult journey, I can assure you, but it is a journey that is achievable if you put your mind to it. There are some foods that are called brain foods. Brain foods is one of the courses that we take in work and study group. What are the things that you should be eating, feeding your body with? Nuts, berries, oily fish, dark chocolate, coffee, avocado. Those are things that will help your brain to do what it needs to do. So let me stop here instead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yinka. In fact, you went far and beyond. But now there's a question I want to ask. And this question, it applies to Yinka and Dr. Segun. Even me, I need answer to this question because I need ginger too. He said the person is asking that, how would you encourage somebody? This question you're asking, Mr. Questionnaire, me self, I need the answer because I've gone through it too. How would you encourage somebody who has filled a paper twice, even with seemingly adequate preparation, especially a paper that you consider your favorite? Or could you be wrong? Do I think it's my favorite? I will read ethics. I would think I've killed ethics. By the time I enter the examination, I will just see fail below 50 in ethics. What is going on here? So please help us, encourage us. What are we doing wrong? Or what is the ginger we need to continue? Okay, Dr. Segun, maybe you should start, then Yinka would.
Okay. All right. So I said that I had some hiccups on the way during the CFA exams. So I did the level 1 twice, level 2 3 times. Now, by the time I did the level 2 the second time, I've made up my mind that I wasn't interested anymore. That maybe that guy that said CFA wasn't meant for me, right, after all. All right. Now, if I had shut down, I told my wife that don't let us waste money anymore. I see the dollars that we're pumping into somebody else's pocket. Let's stop at this point, right? Okay, so knowing my wife, she's not the kind of person that will outrightly tell me, I don't agree with you, but she's more likely going to say, well, if that's your decision for now, but I think you should think about it. And when she said that, it hit me. And I realized that, you know what? Why am I deciding to not go forward because of a setback? All right. So at that point that you know what? Why don't I retrace my steps? Give it one last shot. And if this last time, the result is not as good, maybe that's a final sign from God that you should not do it. However, I saw a scripture that I found it very, very interesting that described my situation exactly. All right, and that was a propeller to say maybe I'm not wrong after all. The book of I'm quoting scripture. It helps me a lot. So in Genesis 26, where Isaac was moved to okay, Genesis 26, where Isaac moved to a particular place and he dug a well. And his Bible says he dug the well, and it says the people, there was a strife between him and the people around him. I said he moved to another place, dug another well. I said there was another strife. Essentially, I read that as the first attempt, he didn't do well. Second attempt, he didn't do well. But I said by the time he did the third attempt, he says, and there was no strife, and he says, God has given me. So I said, okay, you have only done it 2 times. It means that there's a third time, all right? So on that basis, right? Now, so what am I saying? I'm saying that it's important that you take comfort in, 1, the word of God. Okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, I think you should also know why are you doing this exam. It helps you remind yourself of the reason. Why am I doing the CFA? What's the role it will play in my career? Will it help me move up or move out? For me, it was a case at the time I wanted to move to a more finance role, right? I felt the CFA was very, very important. All right. And so when I thought about that again, it encouraged me. And then the final thing was support. All right. My wife is one of my greatest fans. And she constantly will say how much she believes that in me, how much she believes in Johnny and all of that. And you know, like Ika said, speaking to your spouse about the vision, right? And then they reminding you later that maybe you said that this thing is supposed to help you achieve this, and it helps you. You know, all of this together was the ginger I needed to continue, right? And it helped a lot because constantly I was reminded of this, and constantly I was looking at that same scripture. Constantly, I was thinking about where I wanted to be with this, and that for me was what I used as a stepping stone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Segun. Yinka, I know you went through this, you passed through the same route, so please tell us.
Oh yes, oh yes. It was a very similar route with Dr. Sanya's route. So my level 1, I passed at a sitting, and of course with that brag, I had over 70% in 7 courses, and with that brag, I went into level 2 believing that, oh yes, here we are, level 2, let's conquer you like we conquered level 1. And unfortunately, I attempted level 2 3 times before I passed. Level 2 of the CFA exam is actually the most difficult. It has the most difficult content. So if you are on level 2 and your pace, you are not passing like you think you pass, don't worry yourself. That's one. In addition, there's something Dr. Sanya said, which is very important, which is you need to know why you are doing what you are doing. Now, for me, it's not the day they give me the charter that I become a charter holder. I became a charter holder the day that I decided to start writing the CFA exams, even though I didn't have the charter in my hand. And that's the kind of mentality that I had. So it didn't matter whether or not I was passing at a sitting or whether or not I was failing so many times before I eventually passed. For level 3, I had the same story. I did level 3 2 times before I passed. Now, what happens to me is when I write an exam that I think I will pass and I don't pass, I change my strategy immediately. One thing they say is don't do things the same way and expect a different result. So when I didn't pass level 2 the second time, I mean, it was awful for me because I was even on a band 9. You know when you fail and you fail on band 4. So for those that don't know the meaning of band 9 means you are close to passing. So maybe you are just 5 marks away from passing. So maybe if you had given additional 1 hour to the exam, you would have passed, that kind of scenario. And I would wake up in the middle of the night and be crying. And I kept crying like, God, what is this? I have 2 kids at this exam. I've been on this exam this is the 4th year or about 3 years, and there's no end in sight. What is this? And, after trying to pet me for weeks and I wasn't budging, my husband was just like, Madam, maybe we should just stop this exam. And that was like the jerk of reality that no, that's not an option. And immediately I just picked up myself and then I started preparing for the exam again. What did I do differently? For level 2, which is also applies to any other exam, whether the CFA or ICANN, number 1 thing is there's a difference between reading the content of the exam and being able to answer questions. Now, CFA you have to read and you have to know how to answer the questions they will ask you on the exams, which I call application. reading and application. Reading is knowing the content, and you'll be doing yourself some disservice if you don't finish the entire curriculum, especially for the ICANN. I'm going to talk about something that happened when I was writing ICANN. I will share it. You need to finish the entire curriculum. You need to understand the content. And then you need to be able to apply the knowledge that you know. That is what the exam is about. Now, how do you do that? There's no shortcut. It is practicing. You need to practice as many questions as you can. By the time I did level 2, the 3rd time, I was able to pass excellently. Like the highly weighted courses, I got over 70% in them. I failed ethics and I still passed. So that you know how much I passed, because even me, I knew I really passed. I failed ethics. Now, what did I use? I worked like up to 4,000 questions for level 2. On the same concepts, different kinds of questions, twist your brain in different ways and really prepare for the exam. When I got to the exam, I finished in 1 hour, 30 minutes instead of 3 hours. And then I went over my work the second time. So I did the exam twice, for the morning session and the afternoon session. So if you have done something a certain way, please change your strategy. Practice is very, very, very important. I mean, you need to practice. For the CFA, you have a lot of resources that you can leverage on. You have the mock exams. Please don't wait till 2 weeks to the exam before you start doing your mock. Start your mock at least 4 weeks to the exam. Do your online topic-based tests. You know those topic-based tests on the website of the CFA Institute? You got to do them as many times as possible. As many times that you know the answer before finishing reading the question. That level of, perfection or technicality is required, so that before you finish reading the question, you already know the answer and you are clicking. You need to find a way of investing your time. Let's say you commute to work. You can have that online based on your phone and be doing it as you are going to work if you are not driving, or be listening to something instead of, you will have time to do Instagram, you have time to do all the social life you want to do. You can't, there's time for everything. You can't do 2 things at the same time. You need to focus. So make sure that you are well focused. You have everything, you are focused, that everybody around you, including your employer, your bosses, your colleagues, your spouse, they know what you want to achieve and they can support you to achieve what you want to achieve. So I hope that helps, Inse.
As usual, you've answered it. Dr. Segun, is there any examination tips that you think would be useful too in passing the CFA exam or any exam generally?
Okay, I think you guys touched on everything I would have said. That thing about practice is particularly important. Every exam has its style and approach, and you need to understand the CFA style, right? And the only way you can know it is to practice questions and questions. All right. In CFA, there's a particular, either the afternoon or the morning. One is usually very hard. So for example, there's a time I did the morning session. By the time we came in the afternoon, nobody came. About less than 10% of the candidates came back. And that's a reflection of how they felt they performed in the morning session. All right. Now, by the time I did the level 2, the 3rd time, right, the morning session was a difficult one. When we left the hall, people were saying the exam was hard. I wasn't sure what they were talking about because this is the same exam that I did. I thought that was the easy, that maybe it's the afternoon one that will be the hard one. All right. And by the time we came in the afternoon, that was even much easier. So I guess my level was now higher. And like she said, I failed because I probably didn't know some things. And I failed because my approach the first time wasn't correct. All right. And by the time I did the first one, I got a band 10, right? I felt that, no, just do what you did now. I did the same thing. Instead of getting a girl passing and I got bad 4, I said, no, there's something wrong. So I changed the approach entirely. All right. I focused hard on completing the curriculum 2 times. All right. I found that going over the curriculum twice will make it easier for me to remember, because the subjects are very volatile. And in my own space, I don't deal with some of these things every day. For example, derivatives. So they're a bit more theoretical than practical to me. And so it meant I had to learn and learn. All right. So I would suggest that one, know your very strong areas. All right. But I don't think it should not be. I don't think because you're strong in this area, you won't read it at all. That I always know if it's financial reporting, I'm always very good at that. All right, so I think I suggest that you try to read as many questions as possible. Then the last thing I would say is that the CFA exam is such that you sit in the same position for 3 hours. All right, try to mimic those exam conditions. And so before I entered the exam hall, for that 3rd time, I'd done a similar exam environment 3 or 4 times. All right. So I was constantly sitting 3 hours doing the 60 questions, right, and ensuring that I was, getting as many questions as possible. So by the time I got to the exam day, it was as if I was doing something I had just done before. And it was easier to do that, because it's a lot of stress on the brain to sit in the same position and try to answer questions, those survey questions, and under the exam, because you're not just testing your knowledge, you're also testing your ability to deliver under the exam condition, really. And so try to mimic the exam condition as much as possible before you get to the exam hall. Don't let the exam day be the first time that you're doing an exam for 3 hours at a stretch. I hope that helps.
Yes, it has. So Olayinka, I'm going to ask you a question, because this question is targeted towards ACC and ICANN students. Now, we know that ACC and ICANN strategy for ACC and ICANN is completely different from CFA, where with ACC and ICANN, especially now that ICANN is trying to mimic ACC, you pick which exams you want to write at a particular time, as compared to CFA, where you're writing your 10 papers on the same day. So it's like, so how do you strategize reading? Okay, now the first question is this. I'm going to ask, especially considering the fact that I've written the exam. So how do you decide which papers to write at a particular time? Because let me give a scenario. I remember when I started ACCA, I did my first degree was in accounting. But when I started ACCA and they said, do you want exemptions? I ticked no, I don't want exemption. I went to LASU. But by the time I finished on LASU, I could not say that, because the way Oyibo man tests is different from the way our Nigerian culture is, our Nigerian educational system is. And I realized that a lot of my colleagues that took exemptions, I passed and finished the ACCA. I finished my ACCA exams before they even finished. Some of them even finished like a year or 2 after I did. That's why the fact that they took exemptions and were ahead of me at the start. So first question is this: how do you decide which questions to write at a particular diet? Or what advice can you give people? Should they write, especially when they've been failing, probably they've been writing 3 papers at a sitting? Should they change their strategy and write 1 at a time, or write 2 at a time? What strategy can you give them in writing their exams and preparing for their exams too?
Okay, thank you very much, Inse. So this question would actually depend on the individual, all right? So, but I'm going to say that if you have a choice that ICANN gives you to choose your papers and choose where you want to write your exams, these are some of the things that you should consider. Number 1, planning is always very important, all right? It's always good to plan and to prepare yourself psychologically for whatever it is you want to do. So if, for instance, you are taking a paper that you know that you're not very familiar with. It's not a paper that you are comfortable with, or a paper that you think is your strength. Then what it means is that you need more time to devote for that kind of paper. So if so for instance, if you are working in an auditing firm and you know that December, January, February, March, you're always very busy at work, that will not be a time to go and fix that kind of paper that you want to write in May, because you know that your work will not permit you to devote enough time for that kind of paper. So what I will say to you is plan, all right, and consider the strengths that you have in each paper. Notwithstanding, I mentioned something that no matter what exam you are doing, as long as it's a professional exam, you can't afford to say, I'm going to read this part and I'm not going to read this part. So let me give you a story that you should remember for a long time. When I wrote my TS2, there was this particular subject.
Hi, Joel, good evening. Hi, Joel, good evening.
So you can continue. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So
Have you greeted?
I've muted, but
Greet now. Good evening, ma'am.
Oh God. Sorry, Yinka. Let me try and mute everybody, and then you'll mute yourself, please, Yinka. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Please, we encourage everybody to mute. I've tried to mute everybody. Plus, we encourage everybody to mute their mics so that they don't interrupt the flow.
This is my
Okay, let me go on. Thank you. Yeah. So there was this particular paper, all right, that this particular subject that at 2 weeks before the exam, Lillian, if you
Lillian, please, can you mute your mic or leave?
Yeah.
Okay. Lillian, if you can hear us, please kindly mute your mic. Thank you. Okay, so 2 weeks before the exam was when I studied for that particular topic in that subject. And guess what? About 70% of the question came out from that particular topic. So just imagine what would have happened if I had not covered the entire curriculum. So what I'm saying is you can't, you need to devote time to make sure that you cover the entire curriculum of any paper that you choose to write. If you know you won't have time to do two at the same time, please do one. Now, most of the time, what I notice is people always like to compete with their peers. This life is not a race, so we are not in competition with anybody. Like Dr. Sanya said, when I also wanted to start my CFA, I had colleagues, my friends that we started ICANN together. And they told me that, Yinka, you want to do CFA after one child, how will you cope? You have a husband, you have this, you have that. They were just counting 1 million and one reasons why I shouldn't start. But I didn't listen to them. In my mind, I was like, okay, you have gotten your own. Let me start my own journey. And we are on the society now. Nobody cares. Did you finish in 2028? Or did you come in 2021? So just go at your own pace. Don't compete with anybody. Face your own race. It's your journey, it's your time, whatever it is you're able to achieve. If it's one paper, if it's two papers, just make sure that you put in enough work. You know, it won't be nice that you don't pass an exam because you didn't put enough work into it. All right. So make sure that what you are registering for is what you know you have adequate time to prepare for. By the way, that particular exam that I mentioned, that I learned the topic 2 weeks to the exam, I won an ICANN prize. I came third nationally because of that particular topic, because I know there were some people that didn't do that particular topic because it was just so ridiculous, like it was very difficult, you know. So that is a story that you should remember if you're an ICANN or ACCA student. Thank you.
And I think there's something I want to add, especially for ACCA students. One thing I've come to realize is this: if you know the way it is with ACCA, and I think that is almost exactly the way it is with ICANN, because I've noticed that ICANN is trying to replicate the standards of ACCA. For me, what I did was this, especially for the electives, when it came to the professional papers, the papers that you know you did very well in the knowledge part. So probably audit, so we have audit and assurance, we have advanced audit and assurance, we have financial management, then we have advanced financial management. If you know that when you were doing audit and assurance, you did very well in audit and assurance, please go ahead and immediately, once you have the opportunity to do the professional paper, write advanced audit and assurance. If you know you did very well in tax and you have the opportunity to select tax, quickly go ahead and do your advanced tax, because the reason why is that you've already gained that momentum in that particular paper. And so you would push yourself because the foundation is still very fresh in your head. So you use that idea in studying. When you're studying that particular advanced paper, you're not studying it like a fresh paper compared to if you had waited for another 1 year or two diets before you write that paper. If you wait for another 1 diet or 2 diets before you write that paper, it's no longer, you've practically forgotten most of the things in that paper. So one advice I'll give for ACC and ICANN people, if you are finished, immediately you finish your skills paper, your skills based, quickly do the papers on your professional stage where you know you did very well in your skills stage, because those things are still very fresh in your memory. Now, Dr. Segun, there is a question I want to ask. See, this person, their own career journey is more complicated than your own. So let me read it so that you see. Said, good evening, Dr. Segun. I see that Dr. Segun left medicine for finance. I read industrial chemistry with BSc and MSc. So he did his first and second degree in industrial chemistry. I just left the finance industry after 2.5 years. Now I work in engineering, in an engineering company, more like an oil and gas. I wanted to start PhD in my field, but this job makes me feel I should take courses in engineering and other professional courses like NEBOSH, which I'm sorry, you might not know. I don't know it, so I'm hearing for it. What do you think? So what advice can you give that person? The person has a wealth of experience and knowledge. What advice can you give that person?
All right. So what I hear you say is that she's now someone that has experience across 3 industries, all right, or across 3 skill areas. So industrial chemistry, engineering, and finance.
No,
so
finance and now engineering. She
finance,
did 2.5 years in finance and now wants to move to engineering and wants to even write PhD.
Okay, so is in engineering and he's trying to decide whether to do the PhD in engineering or not.
Or you should take professional courses in engineering. So he says, I want to start a PhD in my field, but this job makes me feel like I should take courses. So I guess the person wants to write a PhD in industrial chemistry. In engineering. The current job makes the person feel that.
I see. All right. Okay. Now the thing about PhD is that I kind of know about it because that's something I'm considering. The thing about PhD is, especially if you're doing a PhD not in Nigeria, right? The PhDs tends to, it depends a lot on who is supervising you, right? And what's your area of interest in that field, okay? Now, if you are deciding to do a PhD in engineering, right, and you don't think you have, or you're trying to decide a PhD in industrial chemistry, you don't think you have enough knowledge to form the base to even go into a specialized area in that field, I would suggest you start, and you really want to do a PhD in engineering, I would suggest you consider probably a master's with a fast track to a PhD. All right? Now, and then if you think that you want to do the PhD in industrial chemistry, right, you are best positioned for it because you already have the foundation. Now, PhD assumes that you already have the foundation in that area and you are choosing to specialize in one of the broad areas in that field. So I'll give an example. So if you want to do a PhD in business administration, there are about 4 or 5 areas in business administration that you can specialize in. No, but the assumption is that you already have a base knowledge in business administration to now decide to want to specialize in one area. Now, if you want to do a PhD in engineering, it assumes you have the base knowledge, right? You have enough knowledge to want to specialize, right? Now, that then depends a lot on the schools. There are some schools that will say, we don't care whatever background you came from, right? We assume you don't know anything. we will start to spend the first 2 years trying to teach you on the basis, the foundation, and then you spend the next 3 years in trying to specialize and grow and do a lot of research. Now you should also know that PhD is a lot of research and a lot of they say that you start by knowing something of everything, all right, and then you now end up knowing everything about one thing. All right, so PhD is essentially saying, I want to know everything about one thing when I can, but I'm coming from knowing something about everything. And so your decisions should be based on where you are, right? Do you really want to do the engineering? Then what do you know about the engineering, all right? And then how will the school accept you where you are, right? Which school will take you to do a PhD in engineering based on a no qualification in engineering, all right? Because depending on the school, all right. So I don't know much about engineering, but I would say that if it's the PhD, I'll suggest you find out about the school, what the school accepts as the minimum qualification, right? And then what do you have relative to the minimum qualification required? I hope that helps.
Well, the person also asked that should she do courses? Should she take courses? Because what she stated here is that this job makes me feel I should take courses in engineering and
To be
other
qualified for.
So
Okay. Okay. So there are two options.
Financial and general point of view.
Okay, so there are two options, right? Generally, most PhDs, especially research-based PhDs, have funded PhDs, right? Now, so you could decide that, okay, because of the seemingly financial implication of a master's, why don't I do some courses while working, or do an online master's with a view to doing the PhD later on. Now, what you would do depends on what you think you really have, what you think you know relative to the requirement of the PhD. Now, if the PhD says that you need at least a master's in engineering, then you might need, doing courses will not replace that. You then have to do a master's in engineering first before the PhD. If the PhD requires that you have a knowledge of the area, then doing those courses might be a good way to get into the PhD program. Right? I would suggest that find out what the schools are asking for relative to what you want to do, and then make your decision based on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, so I said that, sorry, let me just make this. I said that because, all right, before now, I'd always wanted to do a PhD in business administration, right? And I spoke to a school, I even did an interview with the school, and the school was saying that your MBA is not a research MBA, and so you have to go and do master's again. Master's again, okay, and I just shut it down. Right? And then late last year, I was talking to someone, but I was telling the person of my experience. I said, no, that's not true. That is not always the case all around, that I should find out more. Then I went back and I spoke to a separate school, right? And I found out the school is not very particular about you having a research-based master's. In fact, they think that if you do well in your first degree, they will accept you to do PhD, right? So that's really a point I'm making, that you don't necessarily have to, you need to find out what the school is asking for before you make a decision.
So please, the conclusion is research. Make calls, ask people, ask Google. Google is your best friend. YouTube is your best friend. You will get all the information you need. Now, Yinka, this question is for you. The person says, I am kind of confused though. Please, what is the difference between MBA and MSc? Because Dr. Segun just mentioned it's kind of, how would you know which one to go for? If you succeeded as a BSc accounting graduate, do you go for MSc in finance? I don't answer to the question, but I need you to answer it because I'm
Okay, I'll give a shot at it. The difference between MBA and MSc. So MBA is I would say it's more general. Okay. I'm not sure you can use your MBA to pursue a PhD program, But for your MSc, you can use it to pursue a PhD program. So I would say that's the difference between the two of them. And the second question as to will you succeed as a BSc accounting graduate to do, of course, as a BSc accounting graduate, you can always pursue your MSc in finance. I don't see anything stopping that.
Okay, to add to that, I will tell you that if you want to transition to finance with your accounting, you write your GMAT. Most schools will ask you what is your GMAT score. You understand? Some schools will ask you if you fail your CFA, have you passed your CFA level 1? They will take your CFA level 1 or your GMAT score. So, and then another thing with masters is we have course-based masters and we have thesis-based masters. So masters is like, unlike MBA, like Yinka has said, and even Dr. Segun has said, MBA is like covering business, like from a leadership point of view, as a leader, what are the things you should know regard business administration, whereas masters is targeted at a particular field of study. So you are doing masters in finance, which would have been taught in MBA, but not in a detailed angle. Dr. Segun, I think did I answer it?
Yeah, straight up.
Anything you want to add to that, please?
Well, the only other thing is that you can do a PhD with an MBA, but you can't. The only PhD you can do is a PhD in business administration only. If you have done an MSc, it gives you a wider, especially if you are planning to go do a PhD or go into academia. The MSc gives you a wider an option to do so many things than the MBA would do. However, usually the MBA gives you is like a diluter. So for example, someone who did microbiology as a first degree and wants to move into business administration, into human resource or finance, MBA gives a good base to move easily, right? And then it's more difficult to get an MSc in finance with a non-finance background, right? So that's really what the MBA is like a general diluter. And like you said, you don't go into details in each of the areas. It's just to like say some small things of everything.
Okay, thank you very much. Yinka, this question is straight for you. It says, how do we say no to more work? When you work in an organization that is, the work is to die, as in they want to kill people with the work. So what is where the number of extra hours you put does not, so I understand what the person is saying, that when you work in an organization where whether you work 12 hours or you work 15 hours, it does not determine whether or not you are good, but they expect you to work and kill yourself there giving. So how do you say no to, how do you create that balance with your direct supervisors or your bosses and saying, do you want to kill me? Please help me here. How do you handle that?
Okay, thank you very much. To that question, I'll say that if somebody is giving you more work, it's because you performed it at the last task. So it's actually a privilege for you to be assigned so many tasks at work, especially when they are ad hoc and they are outside what you were engaged to do, like they are beyond your JD. That's one thing. So foresee that you are doing something right. Because if I work in an organization and I give a particular person work to do and the person doesn't deliver, it's not likely I'll go back to that person the second time. Okay, so appreciate yourself for that. Second thing I'll say to you is this: there's no organization that can ever pay you. Your salary is not meant to reward you for the work that you are doing. Anywhere you are, work is sacred, right? Anywhere you are working, you are not working for your employer. You are working for God. Until you change your mindset as to how you see work, it won't matter to you whether they are paying you at all or they are not promoting you. It won't matter to you. Why? Because you know that it is at that place of your assignment that you will meet with the favor that will translate you to where you want to be. So you need to bear this in mind. Don't work like you are working for man. Work like you are working for God. Work with your heart, with your soul. Work with everything. Because there will be someone that will spot you There'll be somebody that will refer you. I can tell you most of my jobs, even the current job I am, was through referral. I didn't know anybody at EY when I got the job. I didn't, even my CV that they had my CV for like 2 years before they eventually called me. So, but where I was before EY called me, I wasn't enjoying the work I was doing, but I didn't look for any job. I didn't complain. I was just doing it. And that's what I will encourage you to do. Work is sacred. Work is not just, hey, we wake up in the morning, we are going to office. So it's not that. As professionals, you know, our work is the platform that we can use to preach the gospel without saying Jesus. I don't have to say Jesus at work, but I can be so excellent that they'll be like, there's something different about you. What do you do? And I'll say, follow me to where I do this, or follow me to where I do that. That's the way work should be. So if anybody gives you work, please do it with joy, with wholeheartedness. Never get discouraged. So if you're not looking at your employer, you're looking at God, you won't get discouraged. I mean, there are promotions that I've missed. It doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter, because promotion is not for man. It's God that promotes. And when God sees that you are ripe for that promotion, there'll be an escape route for you. But if you don't stay there, learn the things you need to learn, get the experience you need to learn, you won't move. You'll just be disgruntled. And if there's no joy in what you are doing, there won't be promotion. Just imagine you are the owner of a business. How will you do it? That's how I expect everybody to work at their place of employment.
Okay, Yinka, please, I want to ask you another question, which is still linked to this, but from a different angle. So how do you motivate yourself where you are working, and let's say they give me this particular task, I do it in 2 hours. This same task, if you give somebody who will do it in 6 hours. But in this place that we work, my employer would seemingly recognize that person that is doing this work that we do in 2 hours, who recognize that person that is using 6 hours to do the work, because the person is performing activity and it looks like the person is working hard, and although we know the person is not working smart. So how do I motivate myself because it would make people to join the bandwagon where they will be forming activity, work that they would have ordinarily done within 2 hours, they will do it in 6 hours, because they know that the person that is doing that work in 6 hours is being rewarded more than me that I'm doing it sharp in 2 hours, and then I probably am seemingly idle or have more free time. So how do you encourage that person, or what do you think the person should do?
Okay, thank you very much. So this is the first thing I will say is this, that you might think that people don't see. People actually, people do see. They know the people that are not being straightforward, and they know the people that are actually dedicated to their work. It doesn't matter if that person is getting the promotion, and that still takes me back to if I'm in an organization with someone and they are promoting that person, they are not promoting me. I shouldn't get discouraged. All right. I mean, if you have your focus in the right place. But however, there's something else that I want to say, as Inse was asking the question. What promotes you is not just your technical skills. There are other things that you need to complement with your technical skills that they call soft skills. Things like, do you report? Are you visible? Do you have emotional intelligence? Those are the things that make people get promoted at work. And I mean, for members that are in work and study groups, these are some of the themes that we are going to be discussing. Like your personal brand. Do you have a personal brand? Do they even know you for something, or they don't know you for anything? Now, for the people that are forming activity, you don't have to form activity. Remember, there's integrity. You have to be true to yourself. What is your value? I want to be someone of integrity, whether anybody's watching or anybody's not watching. I just want to do the right thing the way I'm supposed to do it. So I think it boils down to your values. It boils down to your soft skills. You have to develop your soft skills. Don't just focus on, hey, I want to get CFA, I want to get ICANN. Those things can't promote you. That's not what will promote you. What will promote you? Your networking skills, your relationship skills. Are you friends with the gate man? Because are you friends with the drivers? It's the drivers that will mention to the boss that don't mind that Yinka, she's a very rubbish girl. Do you get what I mean? That is how people's destiny get destroyed. Those things are very important. Do you feel too big to greet the secretary of your boss? You want to see your boss, you just bypass the secretary, and then you walk up to the boss's office. Meanwhile, your boss is going to get information from the secretary when he wants to make decisions. There's a new branch, they want to open a new branch. Who do you think the boss will ask? The driver, the secretary, those are the people they are close to. So if you think, oh, I'm just going to be friends with the MD and all the directors in the company, you might be missing your target. All right. I hope I tried.
Yeah, you did. Dr. Segun, is there anything you want to add, or have you said everything?
Yeah, she essentially hit the nail on the head. That might also apply to people who are doing CFA or doing professional exam, hoping that by the time they finish the exam, that once you have the CFA, people will not be, employers are calling your name up and down.
And then they rush you.
Like they rush you. It's not like that, really. Like you said, when you are rising in an organization, it gets to a particular point where your technical skills don't matter anymore, right? Or they matter less, right? And what matters more, like you said, is soft skills. Our management staff more comfortable being around you. When you talk like you have the interest of the entire organization at heart, or you're just interested in your own units, so to say. Do you speak like you are looking at the entire organization at a goal, or just you don't see beyond your unit? It's difficult to rise with that kind of person. And then, like you said, networking is so important. In fact, some people say that instead of doing the CFA, why don't you spend time in networking? And some people argue, and then some people say it's because those people who talk like that don't have the CFA, really. What I would say is that a combination of both skills, networking and having the professional certification will help you. You go far. It will be easy. You just wonder why it's easier for you to get a job. And because, as you rise, the roles are bigger. And so people rely more on referrals than the regular traditional means of recruiting as you rise. So I agree with that completely.
Okay, thank you very much. So Dr. Segun, this is for you and I will tell you, after I've read the question, I'll tell you why I said this for you. Most schools abroad will not accept online masters because they insist you need a research master's. Because I know that at least I've seen on your education on LinkedIn that you studied in the University of Texas at Austin. So what do you think? What can you say regarding this?
Okay, so it depends. So most schools do not accept online masters, meaning that you want to do something else after the masters.
They insist you need a research master's.
Okay, so also it depends. So it depends. Now the reason schools don't accept online masters is if the masters does not come with a research, what we call thesis. Right, that's another difference between the MSc and the MBA. The MBA is a professional master, so you don't do a research, right? Well, in some schools like the LBS, you'd rather do an internship, right? And so if the online masters is such that you're just doing courses, you pass the course without a research at the end, without the thesis at the end. A good number of schools are not likely to accept that, right? So really, it's not the fact that you're doing the exam online, it's the fact that is there a research component to the masters, right? You can do an online masters that is research-based. That's where I'm going.
Okay, thank you very much. So Yinka, this final question, because I think we've touched everything and we don't want to drag it for too long. This final question is for you. What is the major challenge that you've ever faced in this journey as being a seasoned finance expert?
Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you very much. Looking on my journey, the greatest challenge I had was when I lost my job, unprepared, during a global financial crisis. And it seemed like I wasn't going to come out of it. But looking back, I thank God that it happened. I always thank God that, wow, God, thank you that He sacked me. Because I know if they had not sacked me, I would not be where I am today. And I'm sure the people that sacked me too, they always having regrets every day that we sacked her. All right,
Especially
so-
now that you're one of the most influential career women in Nigeria.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean that should have gone to their brand, right? But so it was that was my most challenging part of my career. I mean, career-wise. But what I would say is, you know, if you have open minds, if you don't give up, those challenges become your stepping stone. If you failed before, I mean, I've always been failing as a child. So when I failed the CFA exam, it was quite easy for me to pick up myself and pick it up and start working it. For ICANN, I never failed any stage in ICANN. I passed each exam at a sitting. But when you have challenges, the only thing I will say, I know we are all Christians, is just trust God. So I've come to a level where I know that when things don't work the way I expect, then it means that God has something better in store for me. And I just wait patiently in trust, waiting for him to bring that. I don't know if you come back to me, Inse, but there are some other things I want to say.
Actually, I realize that there's some questions. But before we move on, I would like to ask yourself, starting with you then, Dr. Segun, as a CFA charter holder, as an ICANN, and as a chartered ICANN and the chartered accountant and a chartered stockbroker, what are the doors, what are the opportunities you think these certifications have brought to you? Yes, you've mentioned soft skills and all that, but what are the opportunities you think this has brought to you? One. Number two, what are the benefits you think would be available to people? So I'm sure there's some people that have not even started their CFA journey or ICANN or ACCA, but are considering starting it. What are the benefits and reasons why they should do it?
Okay. The first thing I'll say is, the first benefit is to you as a person. These qualifications, these exams give you the opportunity to learn. If you are not learning, you are not growing. So if you see it from the point of view that I'm doing this because I want to learn. So even when you fail, it's not just because you want to have the certificate, it's because you want to learn. That's one. It's a means of self-development. Secondly, it makes you an authority. We've talked about being excellent. I mean, you can't tell me that you're an accountant and you're not writing ICANN or ACCA. I won't employ you because I believe you are not serious. It makes you an authority. Thirdly, another thing it does is it gives you opportunities to take on roles. Yes, we said that technical skills are not enough, but technical skills are also important. We didn't say technical skills are not required. We said they are not enough. So you need to complement your technical and your soft skills. So if you know that, yes, I'm a good accountant, then prove it to me. Show me your ICANN certificate, all right? So what I'm going to do is to challenge you to say, take your self-development as priority. Like I said before, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, your organization will not think twice before they sack you when they need to. But if you have those things, it makes you mobile in your career. That's the first benefit. You are mobile. I can decide to work anywhere I choose, all right? And it makes recruiters want to listen to you. In fact, they come head hunting because they look at your profile, they look at your certification. What it tells them is that you are serious about your life, you are serious about your.
Am I the only one, or is it frozen?
It's frozen.
Ninka, okay,
Can you
It's frozen.
can you hear me?
we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
We can hear you now.
Okay, so what I'm saying is,
Sorry, unmute yourself, Inka.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, so what I said was, it also makes you professionally mobile. You can decide to work anywhere. Recruiters will look for you, they will headhunt because they know that you have the competency, the technical ability to deliver on the work. So for these reasons, please invest in yourself, all right? And it also makes you an authority in your field. If you know finance is what you want to pursue, please take your ICANN, take your CFA, I mean, you can't say that you're a finance professional and you don't have the CFA designation.
Thank you. Dr. Segun.
All right, that's why I completely agree with her. As much as we say that to rise is more soft skills, doesn't mean you are entirely, entirely lacking technical knowledge. All right, it just means that you rely more on the soft skills than your technical knowledge. All right, why should you do the CFA? I think you should do the CFA if, like you said, you want to grow your skills. I realized that by the time I got to CFA level 2, by the time I was reading the content, by the time I was reading the curriculum, when I speak in the office, I speak differently. And someone will say, "Are you sure?" And they'll go and check and they find that I'm correct. The next time I say something, nobody asks me, "Am I sure?" anymore, right? It's easier for people to refer to me and say that, why don't we ask Segun's opinion? You know what, let's wait for Segun to come before we make a decision on this. Or have you asked Segun, what does Segun think about it? All right. Now, and then for me, it's kind of different because there are not too many people who have a combined healthcare and CFA and finance skills in my space, right? Now, first of all, let me give an example. There's a particular company that was looking for a role, right? And three headhunters came calling to me for the same role. But by the time I got to the table to talk to the owners about why they should pick me, first thing I said is there are not too many people like me. All right, and everybody laughed, and then we came back to them and they realized, oh, that's true, right? So the truth really is that you want to differentiate yourself. You want to get to a point where employers not pick you because there's a difference you have, right? So I think the other thing, which is also particularly important, is it's easier for you to for finance is pretty interesting because every industry needs finance, right? So if you develop your skills in such a way that you can, like you said, you can move from one industry to another, still keeping the finance role, the professional exam makes it easier. It's a language that everybody understands, all right? And especially if you want to work in multinational firms, right? It's a language that people can relate to. If you say you have the CFA charter, if you have other finance professional certification, right? It's easier for companies and employers to relate to, right? And it's also important for you as an individual. Achieving the height of a particular area is good for your self-confidence. It makes you look up, not look down at yourself, right? I think for this, in addition to what you said, will be good reason.
Thank you very much. Now, for ACCA students, one thing I would say is when I started ACCA, I just started because I wanted to be a chartered accountant and I wanted something for me that would make me globally recognized, that was globally recognized. But one thing is, like you said, you have to decide to develop yourself. And I realized that in the process of developing myself and having the ACCA, I also got the opportunity to have a BSc from a foreign university, and also gave me the opportunity to even write a master's in a foreign university with a less duration and a lower cost compared to if I did not have the ACCA. So the truth of the matter is, when you are researching which exams to write, when you want to write a particular exam, make that research. Why do I want to write this exam? Is this exam relevant to me? Are there certain things that this exam would give me in the future? Don't just say, all my friends are writing this exam and then me too, I want to write it. You get, so please, that is that. Yinka, please, before you have closing remarks, there's no closing remark. There are two questions I have, and then we can do closing remarks. There's this person that is asking this particular question, and he's saying that I study biochemistry. Where I work is totally different from what I studied. I am studying to get ACCA because someone encouraged me to do it. Every day, I am so discouraged at what I do. So how can this person get motivation and ginger so that the person does not fall along the way?
Okay, thank you very much, Inse. Okay, so what I'm not clear is what is discouraging? Is it the exam or the work?
Please, if you're on the call, can you just drop a message or unmute yourself? Is it the work or the exam that is discouraging you? But can you answer if it is the work that is discouraging, and then we'll not answer if it is the exam? Itome, please, can you help us get that information? Okay, the exam that is
The exam.
discouraging.
Like we've been saying, you first have to know why you are doing it. What is your career plan? What is your what do you want to achieve? What do you want to be known for? Do you want to be a biochemist? Do you want to be in the finance profession? If you don't want to be in the finance profession, you can't say that because you are in a particular role, you have to do that exam because you want to fulfill that role, okay? So what I would say is you need to find what you are supposed to be doing. What exactly do you want to do? Now, let me tell you something. However, it is not, you don't wait for an opportunity to come before you prepare yourself. So if you know that you want to be in the finance industry, but you don't have the role yet, you can still prepare yourself for that role. When I started writing the CFA, there was no, I won't say I was working in any fantastic place, all right, that the CFA would be useful for, but I was preparing myself. By the time the opportunities came and you look at my profile, you see that, oh, this person is actually ready to take on this role. So what I would say is, please identify what you want to do and redesign. I don't believe in, some people say if you start something, you have to finish it. I don't believe in that. If you started something, I mean, there is a wrong thing that it doesn't fit into your career plan, please feel free to drop it and start the right thing. Don't put yourself under pressure to say, oh, because I've started, I have to finish it. What will people say? Please, people can say anything they like. It's their mouth. It's not your business. What matters is what you are trying to achieve. Samuel, I hope that helps you.
Okay, then Dr. Segun, someone says, what can someone do if you notice an organization has unethical practices, though you are not involved? That is an ethics question, but please answer it for us. If you notice the organization has unethical practices, though you are not involved, what do you do?
Okay, so if you are saying that it's the culture of the organization versus some people in the organizations are doing certain things. So if you're saying it's the culture of an organization, then it means that you don't fit that culture, right? It means that it's time to find a better fit for yourself, right? It means that you start challenge looking for a role that fits your culture, right? The truth really is that for how long would you stay there? For how long would you be comfortable? Uncomfortable. I mean, you can't continue to say I'm uncomfortable, you're not doing anything about the own. And then if it's thing that you say, so when you say it's an organization thing, that means that from the MD down, that's the way they do things. And then that means that's not the place for you, essentially, really.
Okay. Olayinka, this question is for you. I have a lot of questions. I'm going to, please, let's make our responses brief. Just 2 more questions, hopefully. So someone is saying, practicing finance in public versus private sector for a young person, which do you advise, Yinka?
I will say private, because in the private sector, there are capitalists there. And when you're working for a capitalist, you develop faster, all right? You are challenged better. So because of that, I would choose private. However, it doesn't mean that if you're in the public sector, you can't create those opportunities for yourself. So how can you do that? You can volunteer. You can, for instance, in addition to working, I also take CFA classes just to make sure that I read, it forces me to, I know that, okay, if I'm going for a class, I have to read it and I have to know it very well, because they can throw you questions that will just throw you off guard. So if you don't have the opportunity of being in the private sector, make sure that you are creating opportunities for yourself to develop as much as your colleagues in the private sector are developing.
Okay. So Dr. Segun, thank you very much for that answer, Yinka. Someone says, what was the one thing that made you convinced and certain that you were getting into the right field? I know you've said this before, but the person has sent a message to me that this question has not been asked though. So Dr. Segun, please answer us directly. What is that one thing that made you convinced?
I would say the scripture. One thing. When I was leaving school, right, I had a period where I was leaving my medical school, that is. I had a period where I was trying to decide what I needed to do, all right? And that's when I encountered the Joseph story, and he spoke to me really well, like that is really me, all right? And so without any form of doubt, I took it as it is, all right? So I think that's what, and then I guess that by the time I started the journey, right, things began to fall into place. For example, by the time I started the CFA program, there was no such thing as so much focus in finance in the healthcare space, right? But by the time I was halfway done, all of a sudden, everybody started talking about the need to direct a lot of finance, a lot of funding to the healthcare space. I mean, there was now a need for people who understood both ends, the finance and the healthcare space, and that's why my skills became relevant. However, it wasn't then that I decided I was going to do the CFA. I started way before then, right? So my point really is that I guess God sees the future before. I don't guess. I know God sees the future before now, and so the way He says, He says He knows. I know the thoughts I think towards you, thoughts of good and not of you, to bring you to an expected end, right? God's thoughts are like 1,000 years ahead, so to say, right? So when you receive it now, sometimes it might not make sense, right? But it speaks of a future that will come to reality. And that's how, for me, has been my one thing that got me convinced that I was in the right journey.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this point, we'll take closing remarks and closing comments from Yinka and Dr. Segun, whatever thing that you probably prepared for, that you're going to tell us today that nobody has asked. Yinka, please release it and give it to us.
Hey, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful session, and I really want to thank everyone that joined and stayed throughout. I also want to thank Dr. Sanya as the Government Work and Study for giving us his time. I learned a lot from you as well. And thank you, team, for really engaging us this evening. I believe that by the grace of God, you would all have resounding success in your exams. So in terms of my remarks, first thing I will say to you is whatever exam that you are writing or whatever level, please make sure that you have adequate information about that exam. Read as much as you can. So it's like you and the institute, or you and ICANN, you and ACCA body, you are competing for something. You want to pass, they have a pass limit. So you are contesting for something. So see them as your enemy. So what do you do about your enemy? You know everything about your enemy. Know every single thing about your enemy. For CFA students, there's a group called Analyst Forum. If you are not, you don't have to join the group, but just make sure that you follow the conversations there. They discuss a lot of insights about each level that can be very useful for you to know. The more information you have about each exam, the better, and the higher the probability that you are going to succeed. Another thing, second point is, please, there's nothing called multitasking. Don't say that you want to multitask. Multitasking is a myth. Always concentrate on one task at a time, because your brain cannot multitask. Try to read about the brain and understand how the brain works so that you can use your brain to serve you. Your brain cannot multitask. You need to focus on one thing at the same time. Try to batch your task, all right? What you call multitasking is you're switching in between tasks, and what you're doing is you're stressing your brain, and it's, of course, it also has an impact on your mental health, and it also affects your ability to focus, which is what you need. Third thing I'll say to you is always remember to do your power poses. There's a professor of psychology, her name is Ami Cody. She did a research on how our posture affects our confidence. And she discovered that the more confident you are, the more you open up, the more confident you become. And what does that do for you? The research shows that within 2 minutes of taking your power postures, like raising your head, doing your Wonder Woman, doing your, all those not folding your arms or doing like this, opening up, what it does to you is that It increases your testosterone levels by 20% and your cortisol decreases by 25%. And what that does is that you become more confident. You can't achieve anything in life unless you are confident. Even if within you, you are fighting with a lot of struggles, you need to build that confidence in yourself, because without that confidence, you can't survive the world. Third thing I want to tell you, please avoid all forms of emotional drama. Make sure that the people that you have in your space are people that believe in your vision and are people that support you. If there's anybody that keeps attacking your confidence, please stay away from such people. If there's anybody that tells you there's something you can't do, know that they are not your friends, stay away from them. Dr. Sanya alluded to it. My husband is my #1 fan, is the one that supports me, cheering me on this journey, every journey of my life. So please do the same. Look for people that would support you. Look for people that would cheer you on and tell you that you can do it. And also always tell yourself that you can do it. Thank you so much. That's my closing remark. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it was useful to you. And please, if you have any more questions, I'm available. I'm on your group. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm always there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yinka. Dr. Sanya, over to you.
All right, so first of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me here. And it was an honor and pleasure to have been in this conversation. And also, Yinka, I'd like to say that thank you for being here with you. Really, I follow you on LinkedIn and I follow closely your nuggets. Really, I truly appreciate you, honestly. All right, my closing remark will be on 3 areas. There are 3 things you should know, right? On this your journey. First of all, I think you should know yourself. Know who you are, know what you have.
Dr. Segun, oh gosh, please, we need to hear this final remark. So the devil is a liar. Hey, the devil is a liar. Please, everybody, hold on, because this final nuggets can be the thing that somebody is waiting for, has been waiting for since we started.
Hello?
Hello, we are here. We are with you. We are with you, Dr. Segun.
Okay, so my apologies. I didn't know I didn't plug my laptop, so it went out. Okay.
Out.
Okay. So firstly, like I said, know yourself, know what your weaknesses are, know what your strengths are, right? And when I was in the CFA exam, I didn't get the opportunity of having a community group like this. What that does is that it gives you an opportunity to get to depend on other people's strengths to cover your weaknesses. So if there are areas you don't know as well that other people might know much more, this gives you an opportunity to cover that. That's one. 2, know why you are doing the exam. All right. Okay, that's just one. Then the second thing is know the curriculum. Right, like Inga said, don't go into the exam or thinking that this is one area that I'll leave out. All right, and then the final thing is know the exam, know the way the exam is set. Right, how is it set? Is it try to mimic the exam condition. Let your sitting in the exam or not be the first time you are in that kind of exam condition, so to say. All right. I think that with God on our side, nothing is impossible. All right. Don't ever take any challenge or obstacle as a reason to stop, but take it as a reason to reevaluate your position and garner more strength to overcome. I wish you all the best in your career journey. And I thank you also. Thank you again for having me on this platform.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanya. If you want to get in touch with them, you can follow them on their LinkedIn profiles. Dr. Segun Sanya is Segun Sanya on LinkedIn, and Olayinka, I'm sure virtually everybody here follows Olayinka, but Olayinka Oyetunji on LinkedIn. If you need any questions, please just reach out to them on LinkedIn, and I'm sure they would respond to you. In your various groups, you can just drop a message, and at least one of the leaders would take you to the appropriate quarters. But one thing I would say, my conclusions, what I learned was, once you have a vision, please hold on tight to it. Don't let it go. No matter how long it will take. The Bible has said, though the vision may tarry, at the appointed time to come to pass. It might be that that particular paper that you are failing, it is that particular skill you will need, or that particular thing you will need in your job in the future. And so studying for it. By the time you now encounter it, you'll be like, come on, I'm ready for it. It might even be that you try to write this thing for a different reason, but in the future, it is for a completely different reason that thing will come in very handy for you. So please, the recordings will be available to all the groups if you need it, and follow Dr. Segun Sanya and Olayinka Oyetunji on LinkedIn to get more personal information. If you want them to be your mentors, if you want them to help you in different parts in your different stages in your career, I'm sure even though they are very busy, they would take out time to at least respond to 1 or 2 of your messages. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a lovely weekend ahead. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.